What's up, beautiful people? This is David Filar, your host of An Untold Narrative. This is going to be episode 38. I can't believe we've made it this far. We keep chipping away. I know I haven't dropped episodes every single week. That's totally on me. There's a lot going on. But I'm going to try to get back to it during the summer. I'm going to try to get better at recording ahead of time, so there's a regular cadence. But I need to hold myself accountable here. So the purpose of episode 38 is really just to take a break from having guests and just to reflect a little bit with myself and have an episode that's pretty much around the 5 things that I've learned throughout COVID-19. And I want to take the time to do so because we are pretty much out of it at this point. Massachusetts last week or 2 weeks ago just opened the floodgates for 100% restaurant capacity. Ballparks are back open. No masks required when you walk through, businesses or practices unless they privately establish themselves to. So, number 1, prioritize yourself. Right? Now that sounds ultra basic. It sounds very simplistic. But I think when the past year plus, we've been put in circumstances which we didn't necessarily like or love, or we were uncomfortable or weren't aware of even. We had the chance to reflect and learn and look at ourselves and the things around us, and what really brings us joy and happiness. And what I found is that when you start prioritizing yourself and the things that make you happy, every single day, things ultimately get a lot better because you're not doing anything for anyone else, right? Now, that's not to say that you don't do things for other people within your job, for example, right? Or, when you go out to friends, you're going out of your way for somebody else. But you ultimately want to hang out with your friend or whatever that circumstance is. Prioritizing yourself also means that when you cross into a circumstance where you really don't want to go into, don't go. I tweeted about this the other day. Why would you ever want to go, let's use dating. Why would you want to go on a date? And let's say that date is the person offers up bowling and you hate bowling. Why would you go bowling? You don't like bowling. Don't fucking go bowling. I think it's ultimately about doing the things that make you happy and being honest with not only yourself, but the people around you, and things are going to get better. So again, number 1 was prioritizing yourself. Number 2, a lot of people who follow me on Twitter or Instagram, usually at the beginning of a week or the beginning of a month or the end of a week, I like to use Fridays as well. I'll share something where I say something along the lines of being better. And number 2 is ultimately be better every fucking day. If we're not out to learn from what we did the previous day, every day, and enhance our lives by learning from that, we're not doing ourselves justice. We're not doing the people around us justice. If we really prioritize ourselves and then attach being better every day, oh man, the world would become such a great place without a lot of the heartaches and the negativity surrounding things. But definitely be better, right? Like, why would you want to be the same, or why would you want to do the same thing that you did the previous day or the previous week when you didn't enjoy it, or that you were stressed out about it, or you just hated doing it, and then you get into a fight with somebody, or you can't sleep about it. Learn from it, adapt, work your way around it, and be better about it. Learn. There's always two sides to every coin. There's always another perspective you could take, right? So that leads me to number 3. There's no reason that we all can't be optimistic or nice. Some people have a problem with being optimistic all the time. I get it. Just be nice all the time. There's no reason why we can't be optimistic or nice every single day. Again, the way that I prioritize these 5 things that I've learned really kind of all attached to one another. But if you're out bettering yourself as point number 2, and you have a positive outlook and you're nice to everybody, guess what? Things get better. Just doing good things, like obviously you're gonna get good things in return. Like that's not fucking karma. That's just like practicality. And especially like the optimistic side. I know some people are like, you can't be optimistic all the time. I think it's less about being optimistic all the time, and it's more so understanding people's perspective, right? So when you get put into a circumstance, somebody sends, let's use the work environment, for example, and let's just say that they sent an email or said something during a meeting that rubbed somebody the wrong way, right? And that person in the following meeting says something to you about it, and they're like, oh man, that person was very harsh. Like, I can't believe they would say something like that. And my approach has been, and some of the things I've been trying to put into practice is, we always have this like immediate reaction to just like go negatively talk about circumstances like that. But we don't actually know or think about what could have happened to that person to regulate that response that they gave. Or instead of it treating it as like an attack, maybe something triggered them personally, for example. Maybe they're dealing with something in their home life and they're really stressed out, and that triggered them to say something kind of out of line, right? We don't know what's going on all the time, but if that person, instead of negatively talking about it, took them aside after that said meeting and went up to them and was like, hey, like, I really didn't appreciate what you said, or I thought it was a little bit out of line, like, is something going on, or like, can we talk about it or something like that? Then you go and find out that they actually are dealing with something and they've been super stressed out, and now they actually respect you more because you actually went out of your way to learn about what their position is. So again, taking a proactive approach, taking an optimistic approach to things, you can really eliminate that negativity out and start looking at things holistically and from a positive perspective. And I've seen the repercussions of that being more optimism and better things clicking and more things falling in line. And I'm a big believer in being a blind optimist because I just don't have time for anything else. Number 4, this one I've definitely learned from COVID. And to me, it's actually pretty special because it's a personal goal of mine every week to do this. So number 4 is to create more than you consume. So what do I mean by that? We are surrounded by social media, and I'm a big believer that you shouldn't fight it because it's not going anywhere. So why would you fight it, right? You might as well adopt and become part of it and utilize it. But that's where you can use it positively, is if you're creating more content versus consuming the content. And that's where I found myself a lot of the times, throughout the pandemic. I started learning new things. I started trying different ideas, like this podcast, like growing my art business, like making a clothing line, for example. I did all these things, and I was creating not only physical items, but then digital assets, which was content, for example. But now I am not perfect. I totally found myself consuming a lot, right? Like the TikTok algorithm, and it's just like this endless loop of amazing videos, right? And you get lost in it and you spend 45 minutes or an hour and a half and you're like, holy shit, where did that hour and a half go? And you just consumed so much content, and it's not always the best. And it might have mentally weighed you down because you saw something and it triggered an emotion. And so I've really found myself, even at peak pandemic, I was looking at my phone for like over 5.5 hours a day. You know how Apple now started this thing every Sunday, they're going to tell you how much time you spend on your phone a day. Yeah, peak pandemic, it was like 5.5 hours a day. And I was definitely consuming more than I was creating. So create over consume is number 4. Number 5, This one is really interesting for me. I first heard it in a podcast. I believe it was on the podcast Impact Theory, which is by a man named Tom Bilyeu. And I forget who the guest was that said this, but the quote is from Confucius. And it is that every man or woman or person has two lives. And the second one begins when they realize they only have one life. I just said that and I just got chills all over my body. And I hope that if you actually spent the time to listen to what that means, it's actually really, really critical and important in how we progress and move in life. Obviously, like, I've been alive on this planet for 29 years, and I would say that I've realized that I only have one life over the past year. I've changed all of my habits. I've done a 180. I've shifted mentally. I think I'm way stronger mentally today than where I was even, 12 months ago, 16 months ago. I really recognize that the pandemic has taken a lot from the world, but it's also provided a lot of opportunities to people. But more importantly, to treat every single day like it's your last. And if you need, to tattoo YOLO on yourself, go ahead. But I think it's really, really important to understand that we all only have one life. The people who know me know I'm a big Gary Vee person, an advocate for him and everything that he talks about. And he says the quote all the time that, you being alive is 1 in 400 trillion. That's the odds of being alive and your parents having sex at the right moment. It's pretty incredible when you start thinking about it. And when you have and you build in this fifth point into your day-to-day practice, that you shouldn't do things that make you unhappy or that you don't want to do, and that you want to be optimistic and you want to be better every single day, and you're out there to create a better life for yourself. Every day gets better and better and better because you recognize that your time is super valuable. You recognize that you can go and create the life that you want for yourself because you only have one of it. And so to me, that was probably the biggest thing that I've discovered over the past 18 months is that I only have one life. And I know that sounds stupid. It's like, Dave, you already knew that. Yes, I did. I promise you, I did know that, but not the way that I understand it today. And I have such a bigger compassion and empathy for people, and time for my parents. I used to not really value going home as much. And now I think about even the fact that I can pretty much calculate how many more times I'm going to see my parents on this planet until they go, right? Let's just say they live another 35 years and I see them 10 times a year. I don't necessarily see them, once a month per se, but so let's just say 10, right? I mean, that's only 350 more times that I'm going to see my parents for the rest of my life. That's a crazy statistic. I value that time now. I appreciate that time. I make time for that time. So again, point number 5 is every person has 2 lives. And the second life starts when they recognize they only have one. So I hope that people listen to this and understand that and spend the time to prioritize themselves, to be better every single day, to be optimistic or be nice to people every single day. Sorry, I'm looking down at my notepad to make sure I get these in order. To create more than you consume and recognize you only have one life. So I know this episode was a little bit different. I know I had no guest. It's just me blabbing about some things that I've discovered, you could say. But I'm really excited. I think that I'm a better person today after the pandemic. And I'm saying after the pandemic, I know COVID still exists out there, guys. I am fully vaccinated. I'm not going to preach to anybody to go get it or anything like that. I think everybody needs to make a decision for themselves. But I believe that we are semi-post-pandemic at this point, and I really hope people come out of it with a bigger and broader and better mindset than they were before, because we had too many things. The world was too good, and now or at least I do, have a little bit more understanding of things, and myself, more importantly. And lastly, I just wish everybody, health, happiness, good days, good weeks, good months, good lives. Life's short, and be better. Go get yours. Keep going. Life sucks. It doesn't get easier. You got to keep going every single day. So if you made it this far, thank you. This is just a quick video. I probably said too much, but hopefully you learned something from the 5 things that I've learned throughout the pandemic. And thanks for tuning into episode 38 of An Untold Narrative. And we'll catch you back with a guest, hopefully next week or after this airs. But we'll see. All right, thanks everybody.